Hey everyone, this is my part 2 to my previous video, which is low oxalate top tips. There's only a few things to add in this video at the moment, so and this will possibly be the last one I do for a while regarding this, and I'll explain later. But the supplements I just want to share with you, the first one is natural melatonin. Now, in the UK, it is quite hard to get melatonin, but you can actually order it and get it shipped in, which is what I do. This one's time release, and there's various ones on the market you can get. This is one that I use. It's very affordable, and it does help. Now, I've used melatonin in the past, and it stopped working for me. And I used the same brand before, but I feel that because things have changed through doing the low oxalate diet, plus a few other things that I'll explain in a minute, I feel like I'm now able to tolerate this and actually benefit from this. So this one I do actually use at the moment every night. I was, as I started on the low oxalate diet, I did come off everything, so I didn't actually have anything at night to sleep because I was doing it purely through the diet. But because I wasn't getting enough regular sleep, although it was improving naturally and I was getting about 3 to 4 hours, it dipped again, and then I had another issue to deal with, which is sometimes the case when you're on a low oxalate diet. But I decided to go back on the melatonin just to help me, because I needed to get back into work, and I've been off for a long time, and I needed to get my health back and to manage my health. So the melatonin is really, really helpful for people that may need, help with sleep. It is natural. It's not habit forming. So if you do need help with some sleep, again, everybody's different on the dosage. You have to kind of play around with the dosage. I'm actually quite on a higher dosage, but as I say, it's whatever works for you. Now, the other thing that's particularly helpful, now I found, because with the gut bacteria, I wasn't taking anything for my gut. I was just literally on the low oxalate diet, and I was mindful that I wanted to start something, but there was a lot of products out there that had things added to them, and I just wasn't sure at that stage. But because there was a change, which I mentioned a minute ago, with me going back on the melatonin, my sleep basically dipped again, and I started gaining more allergies. And now, I probably had a sensitivity to certain foods before, but it just wasn't very pronounced or prominent. But all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, I started finding that my sleep got worse, and I was sneezing a lot, and there was basically allergy signs coming up. So obviously, doing a bit more research into the low oxalates, it does mention that some people do develop histamine problems when they're on a low oxalate diet. Now, it doesn't mean that it's causing that. It might have just been there, lying there dormant, and it's one of those things that revisits and surfaces to be healed. But for a lot of people on a low oxalate diet, they then have to cut out certain foods because, unfortunately, low histamine foods tend to be higher in oxalate, and low oxalate foods tend to be higher in histamine. So it's not always the case, but it is often the case. And so what you find is that you're cutting out even more foods from your diet. And then before you know it, you're on a very, very narrow diet, getting barely any nutrients from anywhere. And I have said to myself when I started on this journey that I don't want to do that. I want to have as much variety as possible because I think it's important to get those nutrients in. And although you can get a certain amount from supplements, I still want to be able to do that through foods. So there are options here for histamine, so I'm going to share those with you. So this was what led me to this next one, which is Optibac, and it's S. boulardii. Now, S. boulardii is a natural yeast bacteria that you take. This particular one you can leave out. You don't have to store it in the fridge. As long as it doesn't go over 25 degrees Celsius, then you're then you're fine. It will survive. So this is quite handy if for people that go away, or that are traveling, or maybe want to take it with them. So this particular one has nothing added to it. This is what I like about this brand. And there's no fillers, no bulking agents, nothing added. It is purely just S. boulardii. Now, with this particular one also, S. boulardii, you'll find when you go down the histamine route that there are certain probiotics out there that will actually make your histamine issues worse. It's down to the individual bacteria that you get in mixed probiotics. Some of them will exacerbate it. So you have to be mindful what you go for. Now, S. boulardii is well known for targeting histamine problems, and obviously being the benefit to the gut and the natural yeast, good gut bacteria. Although it's only one strain in itself, it's very, very effective. It also, because it's targeting some of the histamines, it has a double kind of effect, really, a double benefit. So it's not going to basically exacerbate the problem. It's going to target the problem, which is what we want. The other option, and again, there's various different ones on the market. This particular one was not particularly cheap to buy, but it was one of the better ones for the reviews. A lot of people just basically saying how beneficial it was for them. They could just take one of these a day. Some people just took them before they went to bed, one before they went to bed, and it helped them sleep. Now, because this is such a high dose, this one is what they call a DAO enzyme. Now, DAO enzyme is what targets histamine in the body. Obviously, you're going to want to look at reducing certain foods from your diet that are causing the histamine problems. But this particular one is a delayed release one as well. So again, like the melatonin, it will target the histamine over a period of time. So usually throughout the day, if you're taking it during the day or through the night. Now, this particular one is extremely high strength. Yeah, this one's got 30,000 HDU. I think the average is about 3,000 HDU. So if I can just zoom in, I'll show you there. So this particular one is one option. Now, there is some animal product in this, so this won't be for everybody, but there are some vegetarian ones on the market, and vegan options, so for anyone that is following those strict diets. Now, that's another good one, DAO enzyme, and that does target histamine in the body. It helps to break it down. The other option, which is a lot cheaper for, again, targeting histamine in the body, is bicarbonate of soda. Now, this helps to target acid in the body, basically. So where you may be over acidic, and that could be through poor sleep, it could be through diet, it could just be through an imbalance in the gut, in the body. This does help to basically target the acid in the body. It also acts, believe it or not, against histamine. So if you don't want to buy a product and you want to just take something like this, I'm not sure what the maximum dosage is, but I've always when I've looked in the past online, a lot of people have mentioned a maximum of 1 teaspoon in water a day. Now, I take this just before I go to bed at night, and I find that helps me personally, along with the other things that I'm doing. Now, again, it's a cheap option if you wanted to target histamine, but like I said before, you really need to be looking at reducing some of those foods. Now, for me personally, I found that there were some really key foods that were triggering my histamine. I haven't necessarily cut everything out of my diet, but I have cut out some significant ones, mainly dairy. I am still having the occasional egg, but that is it. So no butter, no cheese, no yogurt, no milk. I have decided to cut all of those because mainly dairy was the problem for me. And also other things like pineapple, tomatoes. I mean, if you Google online, you will find some various lists on higher histamine foods that will give you a guide. But the best thing to do is just to listen to your body where possible. And, your body will let you know. So for me, it would be the sneezing, but also the poor sleep. And I found that when I had those certain foods, my sleep would be worse. So that's just some tips on the histamine side. The other thing I just want to mention is on the sleep side, another thing that was helping me sleep, and I don't think I gave it a mention in my previous video, and it's something that anyone can buy any time of the year. You can buy it in supplement form, but for me personally, I have tried it in supplement form before, and I much preferred and had much more benefit from the food source itself. So just putting that out there, and it's cherries. So if you can get cherries, obviously during this spring, summer, I was able to purchase them in the supermarket in the UK up until about the end of September. And then they stopped, obviously, because of the season, stopped doing them. But you can then buy the frozen ones, frozen cherries. Now, that's what I do now. So I have a few frozen cherries every day. And that has got natural melatonin in it and serotonin, I believe. But it's really, really good for giving you that good dose. I found just even having a few a day previous to taking the melatonin was actually helping with my sleep. So I can't sort of praise, cherries enough. If you can get them in their fresh form, even better. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention, this is something that actually helped me initially as well. I was doing a few things to start with when I came off all the nighttime supplements, things to help me sleep, because obviously I was starting from scratch and I needed to try and find a way, any way that I could to help me sleep. So the options that I actually used, and I tried about 3 different things over a period of time, and I would always do about 2 of those in a day. Now, one of the ones that I still highly recommend is called Yoga Nidra. That's Nidra, Yoga Nidra. And this, a friend told me about this a year ago, and I'd not heard of Yoga Nidra, and it's a natural sort of meditative practice. And it's a type of yoga where you basically focus on various parts of your body, and you're gradually releasing stress and tension from them by focusing on them. And it works through, it's almost like a meditative video, and you just listen and relax your body and you go through it. And the benefit of doing this over time, it actually helps to reset your circadian rhythm, and it can help with your natural sleep patterns, which for a lot of people are out. So it's a natural way of doing it, but it's also really, really good for stress. So if your body's stressed, it doesn't mean that you are stressed mentally. It can just be body stress. So again, if you're not sleeping, you've got a health problem that's causing issues, that's going to cause stress in the body. So it's really, really beneficial. I will put a link below, because Yoga Nidra, the one that I follow, and I still do to this day, I don't do it every day now. I was initially, particularly in the morning, because it would really help first thing in the morning, particularly if I'd had a difficult night. And I'll put the link below, but it's a lady called Ali Boothroyd, and she's on YouTube, and it's free. So I will put the link in the description box below for those that may be interested. Another thing that I was doing was sound therapy. And if you haven't seen my video with Harry, one of my first videos I did on my channel about a year ago, she's absolutely amazing sound therapist and healer. And because it was at the back of my mind and I had such benefit from it last year when I had sound therapy with her, I decided to go on YouTube and just see what was out there. And again, I was surprised. I looked for Tibetan bowls, like a healing with Tibetan bowls, purely because that was what I had with Harry when I had my session. Now everybody's different. Some will, but benefit more with the crystal bowls. There's various different ones, but for me it was more Tibetan bowls, and that kind of resonated with me. So I found one on YouTube, and again I listened to that. That also helped with my sleep. I also went to a gong bath locally. There was somebody doing a gong bath. Again, very, very beneficial. The only thing I will say is it can bring up some changes in the body. Like, for example, it's the first time I'd had a gong bath. I've done them on YouTube recently, but when you actually have them, live, they're so much more powerful. And for a few days, my hormones were all over the place, and while it was trying to reset my body. But yeah, and it can bring up some emotions and things as well to heal. Just to be mindful of that for anyone that wants to look into that, because gong baths are quite powerful. Tibetan bowls are a little bit more gentle, but I mean, obviously they're still very, very effective. So there's a sound therapy side. I'll put a link again in the description box below. But as I say, check out the video with Harry, because she's a wealth of knowledge. And the other thing that I was doing, and I still am today, is my heart-centered meditations. Now, for anyone with a chronic health problem will understand, particularly with chronic insomnia, where things can get really, really tough depending on whether you've had any sleep or not. I mean, and consistently, it's you need some way of de-stressing yourself. You need some way of trying to stay positive and upbeat when you just feel like absolute rubbish. It's I mean, I'm sort of in a better place now and through doing what I'm doing. But where I have been, I don't know. I mean, there's some days, I'll be honest, I don't know how I've got through what I have. So I really, really empathize for anyone that's going through anything that's chronic, because it's just soul destroying. It really is. So you have to find ways to try and keep going, to try and find a solution where, unfortunately, maybe the mainstream medical isn't helping you, which is my experience. And that's not always the case. Sometimes that works for people, but it's certainly not been my case, and I've definitely had to go alternative. But I'm grateful because I've learned so much along the way, and that's why I want to share these things, because when you're trying to find out, I mean, there's so much wealth of information out there, it's so difficult to know. So yeah, meditation, heart-centered meditations. Again, I'll put a link below, the one that I particularly follow. Now, some of his meditations are free, some you subscribe to. It really depends how in depth you want to go into it. And his name is Dr. David Clements. He's become quite well known now in the world, only recently over the last sort of couple of years, but absolutely incredible. In fact, I don't know what I would have done without his meditations. They've certainly kept me positive and upbeat. And remember, your thoughts create your reality. So if you're in a negative place and you're in a negative space that you want to create more, you're going to create more and more and more of it. So it really is a case of having to try and force yourself and pull yourself out of that. But the beauty of his meditations, they're heart-centered. They're not mind-centered. I'm all for things that are improving your mindset and your thoughts. But the problem with the mind is it's not coming from the heart. The heart has its own intelligence, and the heart can kind of overrule everything in the body. And I'm not really going to be able to explain this fully in depth. The best thing to do is to listen to some of David's meditations. But I have come across heart math, the science of the heart. I mean, the heart's got neurons, it's got its own network going on. But it's so powerful when we connect with it, because we were actually connecting more with our soul. And since I've been doing those meditations, I've been more connecting with my body. Now, I'm not there 100% yet. I'm absolutely not, but through connecting with my heart more, I found that certain things have just kind of almost slotted in place. Whereas before I would have spent hours and hours searching and trying to figure things out. Whereas things have kind of popped into my mind, or there's been a real sense of a feeling about something when I know it's good for me. And that kind of brings me to the next stage. So what I started off with was, I started off on the low oxalate diet, and I wasn't completely low oxalate, purely for the reasons I mentioned before, that I didn't want to jump in at the deep end, and I didn't want to lose a lot of the foods that I was able to access and the variety. So I've tried to be fairly sensible about it, but I understand that there are people that are benefiting from going on a strict low oxalate diet, and that do very much benefit and reverse their health symptoms with this process. For me at the moment, because of the histamine issues, I've decided to take a step back from the low oxalate diet. I'm not saying it's definitive, because it may be that in time I decide to come back and reevaluate and maybe, step back into it. But certainly for the period of whilst I'm going through the histamine issues, I am taking a step away from the oxalate diet, because I feel, and when I was going back to about the meditations, when I did that, and I've done this now for a couple of weeks, I've just tested the water and gone back more into, I'm not fully vegan, I'm still having eggs in my diet, but I am making my own plant-based butter and various things, so and soya milk, things like that. But I've come away from dairy, and I wasn't really eating meat before. This supplement does have porcine kidney extract, but I'm not personally taking this anymore. Not because it's not good, but because I'm actually getting a lot of benefit from this, and from this, and from that. So it's really your choice. The only other thing I still have a fish oil supplement. So I'm not completely vegan, but I will be in the future sharing some vegan recipes, purely because this is the next phase that I'm going into for myself. It's not going to be low oxalate. So for anyone that's following me that's doing a low oxalate diet, the ones that will be low oxalate, if I do any in the future, and it's possible that I may still do the odd recipe that is lower oxalate, I will obviously put that in the title. So I just wanted to share that with you, because for those that may be following on the low oxalate diet, why I'm not putting up low oxalate recipes at the moment. Okay, I hope this has been helpful to everyone, and I hope to do another video soon. Take care everyone, and I will see you soon.